when John Kennedy was a senator in Massachusetts. So he hadn't even become president yet, and here they are messing around with each other.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting thing because many people think that the relationship started in the 60s. It really started in like these.
He was obsessed with Hollywood, wasn't he?
He wanted to be like one of those type of actors. In fact, Lawrence Quirk made an interesting comment about how Marilyn told him one time that, oh, well, Jack Kennedy's kind of like a movie star himself. He's got that charisma. You know, he could blend right in our world.
Oh, sure.
You know, that's not a direct quote, but it's just pretty much paraphrasing it.
He was close with Frank Sinatra until his brother told him to start shying away from him because of his possible mob influence, right?
That's correct. And then Frank Sinatra got very upset, and he smashed a heliport that he had created just so that JFK could land there on his property.
Palm Springs, right?
You know, Bing Crosby, they went to go to Bing Crosby's house instead as a replacement for Sinatra. Frank Sinatra says, well, how does that make sense? He's a Republican, you know, we're Democrats. He's just like, this makes no sense. He got so upset.
Let's go to some of the phones.
Sure.
Eric, truck driving in Indiana. We'll get you started here. Eric, go ahead.
Hello, George. Yes, tonight. I'm just wondering if they ever got any clues of who administered the enema. I mean, you would think that they'd be the ones that murder, you know. And also, as that lady, Marilyn Monroe, staying in her house, the impersonator, she ever had death threats?
I don't think she ever had death threats, did she, Jay?
No, not to my knowledge. And as far as the enema, I mentioned it was given by the two men that were with Bobby Kennedy. You see, they were the only ones that had been seen by eyewitnesses to go in and out of her house. There was Mary W. Goody Coons Barnes, who's never been mentioned before until my New York Times bestselling book, The Murder of Marilyn Monroe, Case Closed. You know, I did some research, and Sergeant Jack Clemens and I spoke with a woman neighbor who refused to identify herself. But, you know, she died 2 years after 1962, so her account almost went into the wind. But because there's this document that's sealed until 2039, Joan Greenson, who was the daughter of the psychiatrist, said that the woman who was on the neighborhood you can see from Maryland's property was a professor at the university. That was Ralph Mosser Barnes, Professor Ralph Mosser Barnes. His wife was Mary W. Goody Coons Barnes. She was holding a bridge party that day, and she swore people to play bridge. And Elizabeth Pollard was one of those bridge players, and also an unidentified third neighbor who just spoke with George Barron, and then he relayed that account to me as Maryland's last photographer. They all saw Bobby Kennedy go into that house at nighttime and then come back, you know, a little while later. You see it, and they also saw him in the afternoon. They're wondering, like, what's he doing in Maryland's house, coming in and out of here? And when they got suspicious later on, when the news reports, you know, reported that he had been in San Francisco the whole time, they're like, no, we saw him here at Marilyn's house the night she died.
You know, Jay, I'm not a believer in coincidence. I think things happen for a reason.
And here's the biggest one. Here, this will really get you. Are we really to believe that Bobby Kennedy is going to make a secret trip from San Francisco and seen by police officers, by neighbors, and everybody else, and then suddenly this woman dies on his watch, and he's still in town? In fact, he's 7 miles from the crime scene after she dies.
And he's the Attorney General at the time, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And that's no coincidence. Just like you said, absolutely no coincidence. We can't just say that he tiptoed around and said, oh my God, she committed suicide. This is going to make me look horrible. I got to get out of town. What am I even doing here to begin with? That's not the scenario. He knew what was going on, and he was part of this commission of the murder.
And what did
the psychiatrist into thinking that Marilyn was going to go public with a psychiatrist affair, but Bobby knew that Marilyn was only going to go public with Bobby and Jack. So Bobby used Greenson to get rid of Marilyn. He tricked the psychiatrist into thinking that his affair would be exposed when he knew damn well that Marilyn was only going to go public with the Kennedys. See, he used that bit of information to get him to do it.
And what are the odds that Marilyn Monroe, John F. Kennedy, Dorothy Kilgallen, Bobby Kennedy would all die within a 5 or 6 year period? I mean, my gosh.
It's not a coincidence at all. In fact, I'm doing, a few books on the Robert Kennedy assassination, one I'm writing by myself, where I'm tentatively calling it, I found the real killer of Robert Kennedy. Or actually, I think I found Robert Kennedy's real killer. I like that better.
Did I
main doors where the pantry door is, and that is 2 extra bullets in those door frame, and that's 9. Okay, that's one more that Sirhan has his 8-shot Ivor Johnson 22 revolver. Now, what that means is that you got 9 bullets, you got more than one gun. Now, you see, the person who's validating that those were bullet holes is FBI agent William Bailey. He made an affidavit to Vincent Julio, he did Helter Skelter. You know, he's a very famous lawyer. And there was this affidavit where William Bailey says, I and several other agents witnessed 2 small caliber 22 bullet holes in that door frame. And they were not caused by food carts or bumping into things. And so he said that he was assigned as part of the Robert Kennedy investigation, and that's what they noticed when they were there. And so if you have 9 bullets that cannot be explained by ricochets, that's why I focused on no exit wounds. So you can see the count of bullets there. Too many for an 8-shot gun.
Crazy times. Back to the calls we go. Parker in Riverside, California, west of the Rockies. Hello, Parker.
Hey, how you doing, George?
Wonderful.
I was just curious, you think JFK's mom connection, really what helped him get through a lot of the trials and tribulations to come out looking clean?
I'm not sure the mob connections kind of coming out clean. The mob connections probably contributed to his undoing. What do you think, Jay?
What I think is that the mob connections helped him get elected by a hair.
Right, in Chicago.
And also, basically, you see, what Bobby was doing was something that the mob didn't expect, because they're the ones that helped him get in there, and now he's going against them as Attorney General. And as far as JFK is concerned, with his, with the Mafia connection there, you see, they're all benefiting from this, the presidency, the Attorney General, and it's like they're going against everybody and saying, well, and they're thinking, like, well, what are you doing? We helped you, and now you're turning against us. And this just made it easier for the mob and the CIA to collude to kill John F. Kennedy and then to kill Bobby Kennedy. And so the CIA was a big factor, along with the Mafia in the JFK assassination for sure.
Jay, what do you think Dorothy Kilgallen knew when she talked to Jack Ruby? He told her something.
I think that Dorothy Kilgallen knew exactly, that there was, Oswald was not the lone shooter. She knew more information at that time than most people would know, pre-internet, This was, and she had a whole manuscript that she had written that had disappeared, and it basically was choosing to go public with it. And so you can't go public saying, hey, Oswald didn't do it, and get everybody riled up before everybody was going to get riled up anyway. I mean, she was going to do it before anybody else really knew the story. She dug deep, and that's all she was investigating, and there's no way that she was anything but murdered.
Didn't Oswald know Jack Ruby, the guy who killed him?
Yeah, and so there's a connection there, and you see, the whole thing is that, Jack's job was to shut Oswald up because he was ready to speak, and he didn't even know he was being set up as a patsy. You see, that's what's so crazy about the whole thing, is that, Oswald's being arrested, and he didn't even know that he was going to be, the guy that's, the shooter. So, I mean, it's a whole thing where there's so many things going on, and so many witnesses died, by unnatural deaths after the JFK assassination who were witnesses, that it's pretty scary, and a lot of people in the Robert Kennedy thing, they've told me they're a little bit frightened about it too.
Let's go to Joe, Long Island, New York. Hey, Joseph, go ahead.
Yeah, how you doing, Jay? It does seem like Robert Kennedy was less than a year older than Marilyn, so I thought Robert Kennedy would have been a few years older than her at the time, but anyway, I want to just ask 2 more questions about the psychology. Okay, so Marilyn's a bookworm. You do get the impression that the average bookworm is somewhat docile or not assertive enough as a personality type. Do you think psychologically Marilyn was not assertive enough? And my second part of that question is, like deriving this from the movie Don't Say Vita, where it depicts the SAS crowd as also being somewhat of a cult. Do you think that any Hollywood star that would get involved with the SAS crowd, and I would say like the presidency is somewhat of a cult and or a gangsterism, combining like the fast crowd with like kind of a cultish aspect, is running into dangerous territory, especially if they put themselves in the position where they know too much.
Well, I wouldn't say that Marilyn was part of any type of cult. There's no evidence of it. She wouldn't have the sort of, she wouldn't be able to keep up with something like that. There were things going on in her life that required more of her attention than something like this. And there's just no way that ever happened. And, basically Marilyn was someone who would read a lot and she would absorb information. She was always like hungry, for information. And so she would, pick up poetry books, Russian literature. She'd pick up Carl Sandburg's, Pulitzer Prize-winning, biography of Abraham Lincoln. I mean, things that interested her. She'd pick up books on spirituality. She believed in God. She was not an atheist. She was not a cult member. Cult members, sometimes they suggest that it's anti-religion. But she very much had a religious mindset. And so it's not conducive with her personality to be part of the cult.
Jay, my birthday was last Sunday, and one of our callers called in and sang the Marilyn Monroe Happy Birthday type Mr. President song to me. She was pretty good, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
What is it? 61 years later, this person, Marilyn Monroe, still captures everybody's imagination and attention.
Well, when someone dies so young like Marilyn, you never get to see what they look like when they're older. So she's sort of like frozen in time, so to speak. Where people are like, wow, this youthful person's like immortal. When someone doesn't get old, they look like they're immortal, right? And so it's the fascination continues. I've noticed, on my Instagram, a lot of women in their 20s, which is kind of young for this generation, are still attached to Marilyn. They always look up to her as a figure. And she was the most famous woman in the world pre-internet, before they had Instagram. I mean, now you got Kim Kardashian, Jennifer Lopez, you got, all these people are dominating, even Taylor Swift are dominating, all the followers around. They're like the new celebrities that are getting all those followers. But with Marilyn, she didn't have to do any of that. She just had to exist. But, she used to create like little scandals, like her dress, would fall down a little bit, and that would create a lot of media attention. And so she knew how to...
She knew how to move.
Publicity, be good publicity in her favor.
Absolutely. Would she be able to light up a room when she walked into it?
Oh, yeah, and that's the whole thing. It was the whole character that she turned on. It was luminous. She turned on the Marilyn Monroe thing that she knew everybody wanted to see. And then when she wasn't Marilyn Monroe, she was a shy woman, who was just talking with the Carter family and just trying to be a normal person. But, they noticed Cousin Bennett, Carrie's cousin, said that she could turn it off, like on and off like a light switch. And she said, and they'd say, "Oh, do you want to see me be Marilyn?" And she'd just turn into it, and people would notice her, but they wouldn't notice her until she went into that mode, like if she were off the street, for example.
Is there anybody alive that knows the story about Marilyn Monroe, or have they all died?
Well, basically, the research that I've done has brought this whole thing to a conclusion where we know the mafia didn't do it. If Greenson did it, it's obvious that the Kennedys are the ones that are involved. But the Kennedys, throughout the years, tried to, go after James Hall, the ambulance attendant, Ted Kennedy. I was told by James Hall's wife that Ted Kennedy really went after him when he started talking about this heart needle thing. Even though he was just talking about Greenson, he knew the connection was to the Kennedys. And so he really wanted to, make him look like he wasn't credible. They tried to bring out this guy, Ken Hunter, and said that he went with Leibowitz. But Leibowitz said, no, I went with Hall. And then Hunter says, no, I went with Leibowitz. But Hunter didn't work for Schaefer Ambulance until the 1970s, so he couldn't have gone. I talked with the vice president of Schaefer Ambulance, Carl Belanci, and he said that this guy Hunter was a liar. He's like an old-time seer telling a tall tale that, nobody knew was, would ever believe was true, but he was just like an old-time seer telling stories.
They're probably all gone now, Jay. We're going to come back and take final calls in a moment on Coast to Coast Day.
Feeling lost? Not close to your radio? Grab your smartphone or computer and listen to iHeartRadio. Pick up the free iHeartRadio apps in the App Store or go to iHeartRadio.com.
100 years of paranormal study. But things are still in flux. When are we ever going to get the answers we really want?
I gotta be honest with you, George. I think we really are close. Here in the United States, the vast majority of the population is not going to believe in UFOs until we have something on radar. Well, the fact is, not only do we have something on radar, but we have Navy cockpit videos, among other things, that have been validated by the Department of Defense.
What do you think is changing the perception? Is it obvious that's why they have to come forward with this information now?
The fact is, no serious person can say UFOs don't exist. I mean, that position does not exist anymore. The answers may be very elusive, but the existence and the evidence is as plain as any we've got. And it's an exciting time to be alive. We know that life is not exclusive to Earth, and that's an extraordinary thing.
Hey, I'm Ty Pennington with another one of Ty's tips. So we're in the modern age. We've got a lot of stuff that needs to be plugged in. Now, I've been frustrated with power strips at my workbench because the outlets are in a fixed box. Odd-shaped or oversized plugs often won't fit next to another plug. And when I'm using multiple power tools, it's easy for cords to get tangled. A standard power strip just isn't quite right. But guess what I found? There's a cool product out there called the Power Squid Power Multiplier. Think of it as a power strip without the strip. Basically, it's got 5 receptors that come off a base on flexible cords of varying lengths. It kind of looks like a squid, hence the name. The Power Squid is a handy device that makes my workbench an easier place to work. To learn more, do a web search on Power Squid Multiplier. And even if you don't like calamari, you're gonna love this squid. Just try not to make it swim.
Leave the lights on for this Coast to Coast Asia.
Happy Friday, everyone. I'm George Dory, away on assignment doing Beyond Belief television programs, but filling in for me is Professor Ian Punnett with his guests later on those Friday night into Saturday morning calls on Coast to Coast AM.
And remember to lock the door too when Coast to Coast AM is on. Get a new view of the world with Coast to Coast AM.
In terms of paranormal activity, do you think it's increasing?
Yeah, more and more people are aware of it, so therefore they're even noticing it, because times are scary. But some people, they just want to know there's something out there other than what they see on their TV screen every day. So they're getting into the paranormal. They want to go on a ghost investigation. Let's look into Bigfoot, follow with extraterrestrials, to know that there's something more.